Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today we are going to talk about complex fractions. Or simply put, they are a fraction within a fraction. That's the best way to do it. So how do we handle that? Well, just take each piece at a time, your numerator and denominator. So here you have x over 2 minus 5, that whole thing over 6 plus 3 over x. Which means to start with, you're going to have two least common denominators. So I'm going to call this LCD sub n, meaning least common denominator of the numerator. Clearly that's going to be 2, right? And then the least common denominator of the numerator, that'll be LCD sub d, for my least common denominator of the denominator would definitely be x, right? So we have two least common denominators. Knowing that, let's go ahead and go forward. So on the numerator, in order to make the second term have a least common denominator of 2, we have to multiply both numerator and denominator by 2. You have your first term already has that, so you would end up getting x over 2 minus 10 over 2. All that all over now your denominator, your least common denominator is x. So in your denominator, you'll have to multiply both numerator and denominator by x. So this would end up being 6x over x plus 3 over x, which now is going to put us into x minus 10 over 2, all that all over 6x plus 3 over x. Now, we've got each of these into a common denominator. And just, you could think of this as a fraction divided by a fraction. What do we do when we divide fractions? We invert and multiply the denominator, right? So this is going to turn into x minus 10 divided by 2 times x over 6x plus 3. Which now, let's see what we can factor out with the 6x and 3. We definitely could factor out a 3, right? So this would be x minus 10 over 2 times x over 3 times 2x plus 1. And nothing else is going to cancel out between numerator and denominator. So the best we can get is x times x minus 10 all over 6 times 2x plus 1. Nothing else is going to cancel out, so that's the best we have. You end up with x times x minus 10 all over 6 times 2x plus 1. I got 8 more examples here. Alright, so the next complex fraction, we have 20 over x plus 1, all that divided by 1/4 minus 7 over x plus 1. Well, your numerator, it's pretty obvious what your least common denominator is. That's x plus 1. We don't even got to do anything with that. But what about your denominator? One has a denominator of 4, the other has a denominator of x plus 1. So really and truly, your least common denominator of the denominator would be 4 times x plus 1. So let's go ahead and start working on this. In the numerator, you'll still have 20 divided by x plus 1. That hasn't changed. But what about your denominator? Well, your first term is 1/4. You need to have a common denominator 4 times x plus 1. So your first term in the denominator, you have to multiply both numerator and denominator by x plus 1. So this would turn into x plus 1 all over 4 times x plus 1. Now, for your second term, you have a denominator of x plus 1, you just need to multiply both numerator and denominator by 4. So this would turn into minus 28 over 4 times x plus 1. Which now we can work on simplifying this a bit further. This would end up giving you 20 over x plus 1. All that all over x minus 27 over 4 times x plus 1. Now you just have a fraction divided by a fraction, which means you're going to invert and multiply. So this will turn into 20 over x plus 1 times 4 times x plus 1 over x minus 27. Now notice the x plus 1's will cancel out between numerator and denominator. This would simplify down into 80 over x minus 27. So it did simplify some, and that's the most you could do. You would get 80 over x minus 27. Alright, what's the next one? We have 1 all over 2x squared minus 2 all over 2 over x plus 1 plus x all over x squared minus 2x minus 3. Well, why don't we try to factor everything in both the numerator and denominator? So this is going to turn into 1 all over 2 times x squared minus 1, which would be 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. All that all over, of course you're going to have 2 over x plus 1, plus your second term, you'll have x all over the x squared minus 2x minus 3 would factor into x plus 1 times x minus 3. So you would end up with your factor denominators on both numerator and denominator. Well, you already have your least common denominator in the numerator. That's simply going to be 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. And there's really nothing else we can do with that. But look at your total denominator. One denominator of the denominator just has x plus 1. The other has x plus 1 and x minus 3. Meaning your least common denominator of the denominator would be the quantity of x plus 1 times the quantity of x minus 3. So let's go ahead and start working on this now. Your numerator can be left alone. That's 1 over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now in your denominator, you just need to multiply both numerator and denominator by that x minus 3 to get your least common denominator. So 2 times x minus 3 all over x plus 1 times x minus 3. And then your second term already has your least common denominator. So plus x all over x plus 1 times x minus 3. Now let's simplify this a bit here. This will be 1 over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 all over 2x minus 6 plus x all over x plus 1 times x minus 3, which we can simplify a bit further. This would give you 1 over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 all over 3x minus 6 all over x plus 1 times x minus 3, which can simplify further into 1 over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 all over 3 times x minus 2 all over x plus 1 times x minus 3. All right, we've simplified everything we can now. So you have a fraction divided by a fraction, which means you invert and multiply. So this will turn into 1 over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. Dang, this is really running out of room here. Let's see if I can make this work. So yes, 1 all over 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1 times x minus 3 all over 3 times x minus 2. All right. Well, we notice the x plus 1s will cancel out between numerator and denominator. So really all you can get this down to is x minus 3 all over 6 times x minus 1 times x minus 2. That's the best we could do to simplify this. You should end up getting x minus 3 over 6 times x minus 1 times x minus 2. I know that one got a bit hairy, but you will have that sometimes. All right. Let's see, we have 1 over x minus x all over x to the negative first plus 1 all over 3 over x. So this got to be a bit of a pain here, because in actuality you're going to have a complex fraction inside of a complex fraction. So let's go ahead and figure this out. Now we're really going to need to take 3 common denominators. I'm going to call, let's see, this one here I'll call LCD n sub n sub 1, and then the total numerator's common denominator I'll call LCD n sub 2, and then the denominator's common denominator I'll call LCD sub d. Well, the denominator's common denominator should be obvious that it's x. That should be obvious, but you have 1 over x minus x over x to the negative first plus 1, all that divided by 3 over x. Well, this is where they trick you. What is x to the negative first? Is that not the same as 1 over x? So what this is looking like is 1 over x minus x all over 1 over x plus 1. all that over 3 over x. Well, your first common denominator here for the denominator of the second term is definitely also going to be x, right? So let's go ahead and start simplifying here. This would become 1 over x minus x all over 1 over x plus x over x. All that divided by 3 over x. Now, let's just focus on the second term here, right? What's this going to become? This is going to become 1 over x minus x all over x plus 1 over x, all over 3x. All right. Now, for your second term of the numerator, that denominator, that numerator of the second term is really x over 1. So when you have a fraction divided by a fraction, you're going to invert and multiply. So here's how this is going to work. You'll have 1 over x minus the quantity of x over 1 times x over x plus 1. All over 3 over x. Well, this is going to simplify into 1 minus x squared Now let's see. Let me just keep this the way it is for a second. 1 over x minus x squared all over x plus 1 all over 3 over x. Now, we have something better to work with in the numerator. The numerator, you have an x and an x plus 1, which means the total numerator's common denominator is going to be x times x plus 1. Which means then you have to multiply the first term of the numerator with both the numerator and denominator times x plus 1. So this would turn into x plus 1 over x times x plus 1. And then the second term, you'd have to multiply both numerator and denominator by x. So this would turn into minus x to the third all over x times x plus 1. This would all be all over 3x. Is it all right if I start erasing the board? Because I'm going to need to make room. This turned out to be a very complex one. This is truly a complex fraction here. I'm going to keep that part up, but we have a big one here. Well, in the numerator, this is going to turn into negative x to the third plus x plus 1 all over x times x plus 1 all over 3 to the x, over 3 over x. Well, I think we've simplified the best we can. So, all we can do now is invert and multiply. So this will turn into negative x to the third plus x plus 1 over x times x plus 1 times x over 3. Well, right away we notice that the x's will cancel out between numerator and denominator, And you could supposedly factor out a -1 from the numerator, so this would end up giving you the negative of x to the third minus x minus 1 all over 3 times x plus 1. And that would be the best we could do. You get negative of x to the third minus x minus 1 over 3 times x plus 1. So that one was not very fun. Not at all. All right, now, what's the next one? We have 1 minus x over x to the fourth all over x to the negative second minus 2 all over x cubed plus x squared. All right. Well, I think we're good now to go back to just the general numerator and denominator, least common denominators. Well, I think the numerator's least common denominator is x to the fourth. That'll be pretty easy. So we have 1 minus x over x to the fourth all over x to the negative second minus 2 all over x cubed plus x squared. Well, let's get to work on the denominator here. That 1 minus x over x to the fourth, there's really not a whole heck of a lot we can do with that. But that x to the negative second, that's the same as 1 over x to the second minus 2 all over this x to the third plus x squared. You can actually factor out an x squared. That would turn into x squared times x plus 1. So notice in your denominator, you have in both denominators you have an x squared, but only one of them has also an x plus 1. So the least common denominator of your denominator would be x squared times x plus 1. Alright, so now let's work on the denominator. The numerator is going to stay the same, the 1 minus x over x to the fourth all over your denominator. Well, you just need to multiply the numerator and denominator of your first term by x plus 1 to get that common denominator. So you'll have x plus 1 all over x squared times x plus 1. And then you would end up having your second term of the denominator already has that. So this would all be minus 2 times x squared all over x plus 1. Okay, well, we can simplify a couple things here. Notice in the numerator, if I factor out a -1 from the 1 minus x, I'll get negative of x minus 1 all over x to the fourth. And that's going to come into play in a minute. You're going to see why. Then you simplify the denominator, you would get x minus 1 all over x squared times x plus 1. So now we've simplified both the numerator and denominator all we can. It's time to invert and multiply. So this will turn into negative of x minus 1 all over x to the fourth times x squared times x plus 1 all over x minus 1. Well, what do you know? These x minus 1s will cancel out. That's why I factored that initial x minus 1 the way I did. And then between x to the fourth and x to the second, the x to the second will go. This x to the fourth will turn into x to the second. So really what you're going to end up getting is negative of the quantity of x plus 1 all over x to the second. And that would be the best you could get. Negative of x plus 1 all over x squared. And we're officially over halfway done now. We've done 5 of the 9 examples. We're getting there. All right. We have 1 all over 4x plus 3 minus 5 all over 3 times 4x plus 3 all over x all over 4x plus 3. So 1 all over 4x plus 3 minus 5 over 3 times 4x plus 3. That whole numerator over x over 4x plus 3. Well, I think it's clear the denominator's least common denominator is 4x plus 3, right? That should be pretty obvious. But what about the numerators? It almost looks like you got it, except for there's an extra factor of 3 on the second term. So really, your least common denominator of the numerator is 3 times 4x plus 3. So that means for your first term of the numerator, you got to multiply both numerator and denominator by 3. So that would end up turning into 3 over 3 times 4x plus 3. And then the second term already has a least common denominator, so that'd be 5 over 3 times 4x plus 3. And then this is all going to be over x over 4x plus 3. Alright, now we can simplify the numerator since they both have the same common denominator. This would be negative 2 over 3 times 4x plus 3, all that all over x times 4x plus 3. Well, we've simplified all we can, so now we just invert and multiply. This will turn into negative 2 over 3 times 4x plus 3 times that 4x plus 3 all over x. Well, notice something. Your 4x plus 3's will cancel out. This is going to simplify into negative 2 over 3x. That would be your end result, negative 2 over 3x. Seems like a lot of work just to get that, but you will have that some days. And I have 3 more examples, then we're done. Alright, so we have 4 over x squared minus 9 plus 2 all over x minus 3 all over 1 over x plus 3 plus 1 all over x minus 3. Alright. Well, we can definitely do some factoring in the numerator, can't we? This would turn into 4 over the quantity of x plus 3 times the quantity of x minus 3 plus 2 all over x minus 3. All that all over 1 over x plus 3 plus 1 all over x minus 3. Alright, let's look at your numerator and denominator. both terms of the numerator have an x minus 3, but only one of them has an x plus 3. Meaning your least common denominator in the numerator would end up being x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now let's look at your denominator. The least common denominator of the denominator would actually be the same. It would be x plus 3 times x minus 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and take steps to get there. Well, notice the first term of the numerator already has your least common denominator, but your second term you'd need to multiply both numerator and denominator by x plus 3. So this will turn into 4 over x plus 3 times x minus 3 plus 2 times the quantity of x plus 3 all over x plus 3 times x minus 3. Now let's deal with your denominator. You'll have to multiply the first term, numerator and denominator, by x minus 3. So it would be x minus 3 all over x plus 3 times x minus 3. Plus your second term, you'll have to multiply by x plus 3 for both numerator and denominator to get x plus 3 over x plus 3 times x minus 3. Alright, let's simplify this here. Now you have the common denominators in both numerator and denominator. This will simplify into 4 plus 2x plus 6 all over x plus 3 times x minus 3 all over 2x all over x plus 3 times x minus 3, which would simplify further into 2x plus 10 all over x plus 3 times x minus 3. And we notice here, you have a fraction divided by a fraction. We can actually invert and multiply. So this would be times the quantity of x plus 3 times x minus 3 all over 2x. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start erasing a bit because we're running out of space. Well, you notice in the numerator you can factor out a common 2. So this would turn into 2 times the quantity of x plus 5 times the quantity of x plus 3 times x minus 3 all over your denominator of 2x times x plus 3 times x minus 3. Well, x plus 3 and x minus 3 disappear in both numerator and denominator. And then the 2's disappear in both numerator and denominator. So you're literally left with x plus 5 over x. And that would be your final answer. You would end up getting x plus 5 divided by x. I have 2 more. All right. Good one. So we have 1 all over x cubed plus 64 all over five over x squared minus 16 minus 2 over 3x squared plus 12x. So we have a bit of a mess here. We have these all over the place. So we have 1 over x cubed plus 64, that whole denominator, over 5 over x squared minus 16 minus 2 over 3x squared plus 12x. Well, I'm definitely going to say we start by factoring. That's a given. So the numerator, we have a sum of 2 cubes, so that's going to factor into 1 over x plus 4. Then that would be times x squared minus 4x plus 16 for the numerator, all over your denominator of 5 times 5 all over x plus 4 times x minus 4 minus 2 all over 3x. Now that would turn into x plus 4. So there's everything factored. Let's look at your numerator. It's clear that the least common denominator of your numerator is going to be that x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. And we're already there. There's nothing we really got to do with the numerator, at least not yet. Now, your denominator, you have a constant term of 1 and a constant term of 3, so the least common denominator of the constant would be 3. Only one of them has just an x by itself, so you're definitely going to have an x in that. Both have an x plus 4, so definitely an x plus 4 is part of your least common denominator. And then in your denominator also, only one term has an x minus 4, so you're also going to have an x minus 4. So the least common denominator of your denominator will be 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4. So let's try to go ahead and simplify this a little bit more. So this will be 1 over the quantity of x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. All that. Now let's deal with this denominator business. So your denominator of the first term of your denominator is x plus 4 times x minus 4. So that means we got to multiply both numerator and denominator by 3x. So this would turn into 15x over 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4 minus your second term. Well, you already have 3x times x plus 4, so you need to multiply both numerator and denominator by x minus 4. So this would be minus 2 times x minus 4 all over 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Wowzer. That got pretty ugly pretty fast. Okay, so let's go ahead and start simplifying this some more. So you'll get 1 over x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. All that all over 15x minus 2x plus 8 over 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4, which we could simplify the denominator one more time. This will be 1 over x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. All that all over 13x plus 8 all over 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4. Alright, and at this point we have simplified both numerator and denominator all we can possibly do. So I'm going to start erasing again here and making some room for it. Good Lord. Alright. So let's look down here. You have a fraction divided by a fraction, so you're going to invert and multiply. This will be 1 over x plus 4 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. All that times 3x times x plus 4 times x minus 4 all over 13x plus 8. Well, what cancels between the numerator and the denominator? Unfortunately, all that's going to cancel is going to be your x plus 4s. So your end result is going to end up being 3x times x minus 4 all over 13x plus 8 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. And that's what your end result would be, is this hideous thing right here. 3x times x minus 4 all over 13x plus 8 times x squared minus 4x plus 16. And I got one more problem, then we're done. All right, another good one. So we have 3 over 2x squared plus 6x plus 18 plus x all over x cubed minus 27. All that all over 5x over 3x minus 9 minus 3 over x minus 3. So we have 3 over 2x squared plus 6x plus 18 plus x over x cubed minus 27, all that all over 5x over 3x minus 9 minus 3 over x minus 3. I think we definitely want to start with factoring as much as we possibly can, right? So start in the numerator, this would be 3 over 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 plus x. Now that's a difference of 2 cubes, so that would be x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. So we got all that all over, we have 5x and over 3 times x minus 3 minus 3 times over x minus 3. Okay. So we've factored the numerator and denominator all we possibly can. That x squared plus 3x plus 9 is just not going to factor, unfortunately. But look at your numerator. We have constants of 1 and 2, so to start with, in the numerator, you'll have a 2 for your least common denominator. Now both terms have an x squared plus 3x plus 9, so you'll definitely have that. Now, only one term has an x minus 3, so you also have to have an x minus 3 as part of your least common denominator. Now, let's go to your denominator. Much easier. Both terms have an x minus 3, but only one of them has an additional 3. So the least common denominator of your denominator will be 3 times the quantity of x minus 3. Well, let's simplify this a bit more. This is going to turn into, let's see, so the only thing you're missing on the first term of the numerator is literally an x minus 3. So we have to multiply numerator and denominator by x minus 3. So 3 times x minus 3 all over 2 times x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 plus, okay. The only thing we're missing on the denominator of the second term of the numerator is the 2. So you have to multiply both numerator and denominator by 2. So this would be plus 2x all over 2 times x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. All that all over this bad boy. Well, the first term of the denominator already has your least common denominator. And all you need to do to the second term really is multiply both numerator and denominator by 3 and you'll have it. So this would be all over 5x over 3 times x minus 3 minus 9 over 3 times x minus 3. And I'm already probably going to have to start erasing if I want to simplify this further. This is becoming quite horrendous already. So there's just no two ways about it. Sometimes these problems are not very pretty. They're just not. There's no other way about it. Good, that's it. That's all I can do for now. Okay. Well, both numerator and denominator have their least common denominators, so this is going to turn into 3x minus 9 plus 2x all over 2 times x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 all over. Now the denominator also has the same common denominator, all over 5x minus 9 over 3 times x minus 3. Well, we can simplify the numerator even more. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and erase this bottom part now so we can stay ahead of this. Let's simplify the numerator a bit further. You end up getting, well, 5x minus 9 over 2 times x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. All that over 5x minus 9 all over 3 times x minus 3. Now you've simplified everything you possibly can. It's time to invert and multiply. So this is all going to be 5x minus 9 over 2 times x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9 times 3 times x minus 3 all over 5x minus 9. Well, would you look at that? In both the numerator and denominator, the 5x minus 9s are going to cancel out. What else cancels out? X minus 3 will cancel out. So this literally is going to leave you with 3 over 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. And that's the best we can simplify this. You'll get 3 over 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. So that's it for this lesson. Next lesson will be the final lesson of the rational functions unit, which will be solving rational equations. So I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.